It's time to eat.
What are you hungry for?
Sit down and get ready to consume an abundance of fantasy football knowledge from Ross Tucker and John Daigle.
Feed me now. I'm starving.
On the Fantasy Feast Eating Podcast.
Yeah, let's eat, baby. It is the Fantasy Feast Eating Podcast. We are presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. He's the star of the show. Let's start to say his name first because he is. John Daigle at NotJDaigle on social media. Not only is he a fantasy football maven, but he is awesome when it comes to prop betting, awesome when it comes to talking about prop betting on the NFL draft, which is really what we're doing today, right? So next week and moving forward, we're going to break down these rookies by position, right? We'll talk about the quarterbacks, the running backs, the tight ends, the receivers, of course. But because John is so good at prop betting and the draft, we certainly want to do a little bit of a recap show and just kind of the draft in general before we dive into specific players. Make sure you go to establishtherun.com. Man, they got all kinds of stuff up on these guys already. Just use the code FEAST when you do. How about a 20% discount? How does that sound? Establishtherun.com, 20% off when you use the code FEAST. Maybe it's awkward if I don't say my name first. Now it's been like 2 minutes. I haven't even said who I am. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. You can check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. We, of course, all the shows are at Ross Tucker Pod. And I don't really care what social platform you're on, Twitter, or Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of them, none of them. We are there, and we'll post the best highlight clips of each show there. This week, we already had Greg Cosell on Monday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Tuesday, we had the Even Money with Steve Fezzik, where we talked about which teams we are higher and lower on now after the draft, taking some clues as to who's going to be playing rookie quarterbacks a lot, probably later in the year, and what that means for their season win total. You certainly want to check out this week's Even Money podcast. College Draft Podcast was interesting this week. Emery and I mainly just broke down the Travis Hunter, Cleveland Brown trade, as well as the Shedeur Sanders situation. But John had some very specific prop bets last week that we're going to dive into on this show. Although I got to tell you, John, because I forgot to mention this on the other shows this week, for DraftKings, I did a prop bet, and it was over 6.5 offensive linemen in the first round. And it hit. And it was amazing because I was getting pretty nervous when we were at 29. And then 2 out of the last 4. The Commanders took Connerly at 29. And I saw Josh Simmons was still on the board. I thought, Chiefs got to take it. I mean, the Chiefs have to take Josh Simmons at 32, and they did. So the over hit because we had Simmons, Connerly, of course, Donovan Jackson. We had Gray Zabel, who not a lot of people were probably expecting to go top 20. And then some of the other guys, Tyler Booker, Kelvin Banks, Armand. Was it 8? Did they hit 8?
Around there, yeah.
No, wait, hold on a second. I'm an idiot. I am on a live show now realizing I'm an idiot and I was sweating something I didn't need to sweat. I was doing that draft party, John. I didn't realize. Okay, Will Campbell is 1.
Mm-hmm.
Membu is 2. Kelvin Banks is 3. Booker is 4. Zabel is 5. Donovan Jackson is 6. Okay, so Connerly was 7. So I had it at Connerly.
Yeah.
Because the over-under was 6.5. So Connerly was 7. I didn't even need to sweat Simmons. I easily got it. 8. That's a good lesson for next year, John, I think. I think maybe this is a theme moving forward. More O-linemen go than we think, don't they?
At least in this class, yes. And a lot of it is because of the players that ended up falling out of the first round, including some that I had bet. it's going to be interesting to dive into my long shots I gave just 48 hours before the draft, because I'm going to take my medicine. Did not hit on very many of those picks, but at least got some CLV from early on selections before a month before the draft.
Well, a couple of the ones you had last week on the simulcast came through, and I think most people, certainly the people on the Even Money podcast, hopefully here as well, realize that when you're taking long shots, that's the point. They're long shots. They're not going to hit a lot of times. That's the whole theme. So you had Kelvin Banks, John, at plus 130 to go in the top 10. He went number 9. So to the Saints. So we started off pretty hot with your prop bets from last week. That leads me to the next question. Well, first of all, take a bow. Kudos. Anytime you have a plus money bet and it comes through. By the way, I feel like if the Saints didn't take him at 9, the Bears very possibly could have at 10.
And what really happened was the Browns-Jags trade, which I don't know why they had 2 months and just didn't get it done before then, why it waited until everyone was on the clock. But nonetheless, that trade that then allowed the Jaguars to move up to number 2 for Travis Hunter rather than settling at number 5, that shifted the entire dynamic of the first round. I had assumed that there would be no top 10 trades whenever I was doing my prop bets and mock drafts, and that's what really threw everything off, because I believe, at least I've heard, it's all hindsight now, it doesn't matter, but I believe if the Jaguars had stayed at number 5, they were taking Kelvin Banks, and that would have set off a trigger of dominoes then that fell entirely different than Mason Graham instead going at 5 to Cleveland and then allowing everyone else to pick and choose who they wanted. But nonetheless, yes, Kelvin Banks eventually goes to the Saints. We figured they were going to go offensive line to protect, Arch Manning, since this roster is in dire need of everything right now, in cap hell as well. Just really no hope in sight for Kellen Moore in year 1 unless he really pulls together a miracle. So offensive line always made sense if the dominoes fell that way, and the Jags-Browns trade certainly allowed for that.
That is so interesting, because you're right. All the buzz the last couple days, John, had been that the Jags aren't going to take Mason Graham. There was people saying they might take T-Mac or they might take Genty, started to get popular. You obviously think it was going to be Banks. So that is interesting. That's the most fascinating part of the draft. The more people I talk to, any one surprise changes every pick after it. Has the impact. But then that leads me to the next one, okay? You had Ted McMillan to be the second wide receiver selected at plus 160. I just want to confirm that counts and that hit, because Travis Hunter, because they listed him as a wide receiver cornerback. So I'm curious how DraftKings and the other sports books handled that. To me, that's a winner, right? I mean, Hunter's a wide receiver. T-Mac goes next. He's the second wide receiver off the board.
It really just depends what book you got it at, and it's a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, at our friends at DraftKings, they put it before the draft. They even had in a giant headlines that Travis Hunter, no matter what, is listed as a cornerback. So we did not win that one at DraftKings.
What?
Yes, I know.
They had it in headlines?
Yes, even though the Browns did announce him as a wide receiver, DraftKings never was going to allow it to become an announcement. They were always had it listed as Travis Hunter will be a cornerback in the draft. So he did not count towards that bet, unfortunately. At DraftKings, you lost that one. If you got it anywhere else, you took that one down. But unfortunately, yes, Travis Hunter was a cornerback.
Wow. We should have talked about that more last week, John. I didn't even think about that. My mind is blown right now. I didn't even think about that. I was so excited because I thought we cashed that bet too.
No, unfortunately not. And again, Depends where you bet it. Maybe you did cash it. At DraftKings, no. For fantasy, though, it is exciting because now we're getting Travis Hunter with a wide open target tree. This $10 million guaranteed that Diami Brown got in free agency. It's still just a 1-year deal. Parker Washington is a wide receiver 3, 4 on rosters, but not in fantasy. And so without Evan Ingram as well, only Britton Strange at tight end, it's a really good spot for Travis Hunter under a offensive guru like Liam Cohen to get him involved immensely. I will be curious, like everyone else, to see if even the Jaguars are interested in allowing him to be Shohei Ohtani and place every single snap on both sides of the ball. I can't imagine, at least in the first month of the season, that they do that they run him out there for 100% of the team's activity. But will he gradually grow into that throughout his rookie year? I don't know, and I'm very just curious to see what they do and how they handle him.
I am curious too, John. What did you think of, like, the speech that James Gladstone, the Jaguars GM, gave when he introduced Travis Hunter?
How so?
I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or not, but he was introducing Travis Hunter, and I don't know the guy. I'm looking forward to meeting him, but it was like a speech. It was like a rehearsed speech in a movie. It was hilarious. It was like, he was like, the thing about football is about belief. And football is about expanding your belief. And that's what Travis Hunter is. Travis Hunter expands what we believe is possible. It was like Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday. I think the issue I would have with it, John, is it came across, as someone that does a lot of public speaking, it came across as like very sort of premeditated, and like he did that in the mirror several times, and he nailed it. Kudos to him, he nailed it. But I just thought it was funny.
Well, in terms of being a prospect, Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver prospect in this class. It's not even close, even with Ted McMillan going next at number 8 overall to the Panthers. So, yes, it's exciting for Hunter, again, under this regime, who, even if they don't let him be an everyday wide receiver, starting 2 wide receiver sets, when he's on the field, the plays are going to him. And so he's going to have a very high rate of targets on the routes he runs early on. And that's what's going to be exciting, is to see what he can do with the ball immediately from week 1.
Do you think, 2 things, John, do you think that this means that the Jags are like going for it this year? Or do you think that that's what Liam Cohen's going to do, just feed Hunter the ball?
I think whenever Hunter's on the field, again, they're going to feed him the ball purposely. Maybe they think they're going for it. I still question their offensive line and defense. We still need Trevor Lawrence to reach his ceiling, since he's really been underwhelming and got the contract extension from them, mostly because that's where they were in purgatory, similar to when the Giants gave Daniel Jones his contract. But we are all waiting for Trevor Lawrence to hit what we thought he was initially as a prospect. So they may say they're going for it, but there's still a lot of help they need there.
You know what I'm feasting on this week, John? Huel. In fact, Huel.com/feast. That is where you guys can get 15% off when you use my code FEAST off your first order. Plus, you get a free gift, which is very, very cool. If you're not familiar, they got this Black Edition ready to drink, which is basically a meal in a bottle. You can see the actual bottle that I have. It's a perfectly balanced meal, 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, low in sugar, stupidly convenient, cheaper than a coffee, tastes pretty good, has vitamin C, but high in protein. So it helps you, helps me, helps us hit our macros. Again, it's Huel.com/feast. And then use my code FEAST to get the 15% off your first order. Hopefully you guys saw Saturday I was at Penn State's blue-white game doing what I do. Drink Labatt Blue. That rhymes. That was awesome, actually. I didn't even expect that. Anyway, I love this promotion they got going. buy beer, get gear. It's incredible. When you buy Labatt Blue anywhere, take a picture of the receipt, upload it, rewards.labattusa.com. Then you can get incredible gear. Like I got that Labatt fridge. It is awesome. Any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt, buy beer, get gear. Rewards.labattusa.com. All right. Let's talk about some of your other prop bets last week. Some of the ones that didn't hit. It's crazy how close they were. Total running back selected in the first round. Plus 220. It's pretty good odds for over 2.5. I'm surprised we didn't get there. We had 2 in the first, whatever it was, 22 picks. And then 2 of the first 6 picks of the second round were running backs, John. But we didn't quite hit that one, getting a third to go in the first round.
Lots of outs in the back half of the first round we thought could at least maybe help reach this number between, the missed selections were Broncos, Steelers, Commanders, Bills, all not taking a running back. Instead, it's the Chargers and Amari and Hampton who, if you talk about just an entirely different player, this is not for the Chargers backfield, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, as it was for Najee Harris's career with the Steelers. Amari Hampton is not a satellite back like Jalen Warren. He's a 3-down, 2,000 yards from scrimmage kind of guy who's also electric in the passing game. And so I am already worried about Najee Harris, despite being probably a usable player for the first month of the season. We're going to have all August to talk about that. Amari Hampton will absolutely be involved from the start and then probably take over at the end of the year just because he's so much more exciting and dynamic than Harris is. So a terrific spot for a team that wanted to be run heavy in the first month of the season last year before Harbaugh realized they couldn't run the ball at all. So I would expect them to alter their approach, make Justin Herbert more efficient and not put too much on his shoulder anymore. So that's going to be interesting for the Chargers offense. But yes, no Travion Henderson. That was really the one player we thought we would get in the first round. Nonetheless, the Steelers go Derek Harmon, who I did have listed it to the Steelers in my final mock draft. Only one quarterback eventually listed. And then, of course, the Giants traded back up into the first round for Jackson Dart to make it only 2 total. But I had Harmon to the Steelers, and then the Broncos surprising everyone with Jahdae Barron, who can play cornerback, shutdown cornerback nonetheless, across from Pat Surtain and whoever else they have right now.
Yeah, you had the Steelers. That was a long shot at plus 700, but you had the Steelers position of first player drafted. We did not think they were going to take Shedeur Sanders. It really, for them, was going to be a running back, a quarterback, or D-line. They were not going to take Shedeur Sanders, we didn't think. So then it really did come down to running back or D-line for the Steelers. I am curious, while we're sticking with the running back theme, what's your thoughts, John, on the Browns taking Quinshon Judkins before Travion Henderson? I know they're different players, but I think most of the buzz going into the draft was Travion Henderson, speed, Jahmyr Gibbs, blah, blah, blah. But yet that's not the route the Cleveland Browns elected to go. They go with his teammate, Judkins.
At 221 pounds and a 92nd percentile speed score. And for those listening, speed score does translate to weighing the prospects of a fantasy rookie, a rookie running back at least, because it combines all of their metrics, all the tests they did. Like, oddly enough, Quinshon Judkins does profile as Nick Chubb. Like, the Browns have a type, and it's a big, explosive guy like Judkins. So I think the fit makes sense. There's really no one there. Jerome Ford, they already showed they did not trust as a 3-down option last year. And although Jerome Ford does add an exciting mix of pass-catching chops to their offense, Judkins is a guy who can, at the very least, lead this team in carries. So, yes, I think it's an exciting ad, and more importantly, it's a great ad for fantasy because the path is wide open for Judkins to have success immediately.
And then what did you think about the landing spot for Henderson while we're on it?
Yeah, Travion Henderson's going to be an interesting prospect because The best part about all these rookie running backs on day 2 and 3, and we were jostling all our rankings for both best ball on DraftKings and redraft behind the scenes during the draft that established the run. But the best part about day 2 was that all these rookie running backs, Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson, the list goes on, they all landed in amazing spots where they don't have competition. Yes, the Patriots just extended Ramondre Stevenson last season, but also yet again showed that they were willing to mix in and sometimes even outright bench Ramondre Stevenson in favor of Antonio Gibson. That to me is a committee that they are not comfortable with. I understand we have a new coach, but now this coach goes out and gets the guy that he wants under his regime, which is usually pretty telling when there are running backs that previously had been used confidently already on the roster. So I would imagine the Patriots want to lean on Travion Henderson, maybe not out the gates. That's not how rookie running backs are usually treated. But in the last couple months of the season, as everyone is thinking about the fantasy playoffs, I imagine Henderson is someone that's going to be a major factor.
All right. Super Bowl's over. Draft's over. Now you got to get yourself some Smirnoff and get ready to follow your team through summer training, because next season is right around the corner. You heard it all season long. The fun doesn't stop now. Smirnoff knows there's no I in football. It is a we thing, an experience best enjoyed together. Good drinks, good folks, home or away. We rally together. We cry together. We do everything together. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka, an official vodka partner of the NFL. It's also award-winning vodka. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff #21 vodka, distilled from grain, 4% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, near New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. You know, while we're on running backs, one of your other long shots last week, and this was a very long shot, was Ashton Genty, drafted by the Saints at plus 2,000. That was just throwing a dart there. He didn't make it to them. I think, as a lot of people thought, the Raiders ended up taking him at 6. A couple others. John, you had the Bills position of first player drafted wide receiver. They instead go corner with Maxwell Hairston. It's always fascinating, like, you don't really know how close we got, right? Like, maybe they were very close to getting Luther Burden, or maybe they were very close to taking Jaden Higgins from Iowa State or one of these other players, but at any rate, it didn't hit.
It did not. No offensive players for the Bills in round 1. And cornerback was always the favorite. It made the most sense. But there was enough talk that they needed and were looking for another playmaker on offense that still if the dominoes fell correctly, a trade-up could have been possible. And it seems like the Panthers, obviously, in selecting Ted McMillan, the Cowboys, I heard last second, instead of Matthew Golden, were also very high on Ted McMillan. And then the Bills, that was someone that they were also eyeing just in case, like the rumors suggested, he would fall. He obviously does not. He goes to the Panthers very early instead. And so, again, all the dominoes just fell in an entirely different way, including the Bills getting a very athletic corner in Maxwell Hairston.
And then the last one that I think we had last week on the Even Money Fantasy Feast simulcast was for Nick Scorton to go in the first round at plus 240. That did not happen. Nick went midway through the second round. There was a decent run on DNs there. The Colts took Tuimoloau. Interesting, by the way, I think, to me at least, John, is that some D tackles that people didn't talk about as much, TJ Sanders to the Bills, Alfred Collins to the Niners, they went ahead of like Ezeruku to BC, Tuimoloau, or from BC to Dallas Cowboys, Tuimoloau to the Colts, and then you had Scorton go to the Carolina Panthers. I think one of my themes this year is it seems like people are leaning more towards D tackles than the edge guys.
Scorton, Ezeruku, who else fell out of that first round? Oh, Will Johnson for the medical news we got late into the first round on Thursday night as well. There were just a couple players that didn't make the cut, and thus others got squeezed into it. Also, the Eagles not trading out, instead trading up one slot to ensure they could develop Jihad Campbell as he continues to recover from injury, but that's a team that doesn't need him immediately as well. So it was an amazing landing spot for Campbell. And again, the back half of the draft, that's kind of what decided. Yes, the Giants got to sneak back in for Jackson Dart, and that's a committee we're going to stay away from entirely in fantasy. And your rookie dynasty drafts going on this week, you can certainly take Dart because long term, he's certainly going to beat out both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. But out the gates this year, it's probably going to be 2 months of a machination of all three, and it's going to be an absolute mess. So we'll see what happens with Jackson Dart long term. But for the back half of the first round, it really then, with the Eagles trading up, then pushed out Nick Scorton, since they were a team, not the Chiefs, who were looking, presumably, as we talked about, for an edge rusher. And so, yes, Scorton was not someone who made the cut, unfortunately. But a crazy first round, a crazy Thursday night that I did not predict well at all. I finished with slightly above average grade in mock scores, but not my best work either. Again, I'm attributing it to just that 2-5 trade, that domino that fell, that then sent everything into a frenzy. But a fun and unpredictable night one nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think one other dynamic here, the Falcons drafted Jalen Walker and announced him as an edge.
Yep.
So they're looking at him as an edge. And the Eagles, they announced Jihad Campbell as a linebacker, but you hear Howie Roseman talk, and all he talked about was Campbell as an edge guy and Campbell as a pass rusher, and he mentioned Micah Parsons and Abdul Carter and off-the-ball backers that get moved up. So I only reference that because in Scorton or with any of these guys, more edge guys might have gone if these teams didn't view Jalen Walker and Campbell as guys that can give them real pressure off the edge.
Campbell's a shocking one since he was basically an off-ball linebacker in college. But the projection of Jalen Walker makes a lot of sense because that's even how Panthers GM Dan Morgan had mentioned they view Walker, which is why we all assumed it was going to be a 50-50 coin toss between Walker and Mykel Williams to see who landed there to help their defense. But instead, they go Ted McMillan, very clearly unhappy with their wide receiver room, not to mention Adam Thielen, as good as he was, going on his age 35 season. So they get immediate help to continue developing Bryce Young.
Really looking forward to breaking down all these rookies by position over the next month or so with our guy, John Daigle. Other than that, I'm stuffed. We're done.
Thanks for tuning in to Fantasy Feast. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.